All right, everybody. Today I'm joined by Dimple Thacker, multi-award winning founder of Synergy Marketing based in Los Angeles. Since starting out in 2008, she's built a social media agency recognized as the US Chamber's Small Business of the Year and Mashable's top social media agency. Known for her humor, grit, and remote first leadership culture, she's a master at scaling creative marketing with impact. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Chris. Thanks for having me today.
Not a problem. Thanks for coming on. So, hitting the ground running, tell us what is like the 30-second history of you and your agency and getting started to where you are here today.
I always feel like my story's sort of an interesting one because my social media agency arguably started around the time the very first social media agencies came out. So this was like 2006 to 2008. Before I started this agency, I was working with Friendster, if you remember that. It's like one of the OG social media platforms. And then I also did some work with the early stages of Twitter, which is now X. So I'm coming in like really old school with this in a way, or like first day type person. And that turned into me opening an agency, which started as social media and then evolved into becoming an intersection of technology, marketing, and a lot of digital innovation. And so we live by this mantra of the more complex a problem is, the more we want to get involved and solve it. Like that, we're just true nerds. And all those things really complement each other really well. And we just thought it makes sense to evolve into this thing. My background is also programming and coding as well. I learned in the 90s, so I guess when a tech comes out, I'm usually like the first one to jump in because web also exploded in the 90s as well. So here I am 17 years later.
Years, that's impressive. So for most agency founders who have already passed that $1 million mark, and for you, when you were scaling, right, to get to that point, what was the one growth lever that made the biggest difference? And what do you feel like most people or most founders are overlooking in those early stages?
Yeah, what was the first part of your question? What most overlook?
So for agency founders that have already passed that $1 million mark, like yourself, right? What was the one growth lever that you feel like made the biggest difference? And what are most people overlooking?
Yeah, so a couple of things. I hate business plans. Absolutely hate them. Unless you're raising funds or going for like a bank loan, you really shouldn't do it, especially in tech. And I know that sounds crazy, but tech moves so fast. So by the time you finish your plan, it's already outdated. So I skipped all that. I just knew tech so well. It was like a natural talent kind of thing. I didn't wanna become like our cell phones where the second you get your phone, 6 months later, something new comes out. That's just how I generally feel about tech. Didn't do any planning, didn't do any messing around, started the company with my savings, became super lean from day one. So when the pandemic came, everyone's like, "We're virtual now, we're remote," and I'm like, "Yeah, and?" Because I've been doing like, lean and mean is just my core belief. So that was number 1. Number 2 was always leading with integrity and quality work. And so while we started off as a quote unquote traditional agency, we had a website, we had great decks, we were winning tons of awards, as you mentioned at the beginning of this podcast. We have now gotten to the point where we're 17 years old and we exist in stealth mode, meaning us leading with quality and integrity turned into a place where I don't even need a website anymore. We do right by one client, which then leads to 3 or 4 referrals. And all of our business, I would say 99.9%. Let's just say someone sees this interview, right, and hires us. Okay, maybe that's some earned client through marketing there. But otherwise, 99.9% comes from word of mouth referrals where we did right by one client. They loved it so much, they went and told their network, and then we got business. Hence, by being lean and mean, plus leading with quality and integrity, we're still here 17 years later. And I believe in those 2 things. I think people get sucked up in the hype of, I gotta raise funds. I gotta be in the headline saying, I'm Silicon Valley this, and I raised million. It's debt. You're raising debt. You're bragging about raising debt. When you look at it that way, you're kind of like, is that cool? I don't know. So I completely flipped the whole like trendy thing upside down, I guess.
Yeah, that makes sense because so many companies raise money and cannot last 17 years.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. So that's what we did.
Cool. Thanks for sharing. There's always that awkward stage where revenue's growing, business is coming in, but fulfillment, sales, operations, everything else is at capacity. For you, at what point did you hit that mark, and what did you do to fix that and solve?
Actually, because I knew I didn't really have a goal of becoming the biggest agency in the world. My goal was like, how do we become the smartest? And so by remaining lean and mean, we actually would cap projects at a certain point so that we wouldn't sacrifice that quality and integrity part, because there is a pain point at some part of your journey where you've got so many clients you can't hire and train fast enough. Therefore, there's going to be leaks in the pipes somewhere, right? And I said, no, we're not doing that. In order for this vision to really last and for us to practice what we preach, we gotta cap it at a certain number of projects. And so that actually works in your favor, because what happens is, while you're not taking in every piece of business that comes in, you now have the power to select which clients you want. So you could turn away the ones for whatever reason. The budget's not quite there. Maybe the team's a little bit difficult to work with. Maybe they just don't align with your ethos, right? You can turn away those projects and really focus on the core ones. And then behind the scenes, as you're kind of at that comfortable cruising altitude, you can still work on scaling. Like, okay, what if we went from maximum 12 clients per year to 15? How do we get to that point in the next 6 months, in the next 12 months? I like the details. Most CEOs are like big vision, big picture type stuff. I can do that as well, but I don't think you can really accomplish big picture stuff without looking at the details from time to time. And so we capped clients actually. We didn't allow ourselves to get to a point. Until this day we do it. We just won't take projects after a certain point to keep that integrity and quality intact.
That's powerful, and I've heard you mention integrity and quality a couple of times. And in the agency space where client retention is like one of the number one things to that I've seen that differentiates an agency that doesn't survive 17 years like yourself and that does. How important is that piece for you, and how have you been able to really focus on client retention, quality work?
Yeah, so when you're lean and mean, you can also fall hard, right? If you lose a project here and there, you can fall pretty hard. You don't have the resources, you don't have the multi-million-dollar Silicon Valley debt raising right behind you to kind of sustain you. So what I realized really early on is it costs a whole lot more to gain a new client than it does to retain one. And so we have clients that have stayed with us until, like, for the smaller projects, until retirement. I mean, we've had clients that stayed with us for a long time. Humble brag about it in our deck. We say there's a minimum retention rate of 5 years per project, which is pretty good. And that's the minimum. And so then it can go up from there. And again, that has to do with, like, we would put in our decks and in our proposals, you'll start seeing results within 24 hours. This was back in the day when social media was a different beast. We still can promise, like, social media traction within a certain time frame, so clients like that. Another thing we did was, you'll never go without a response from us more than 24 hours on a business day. So attention, the ability to be very respectful of the client's time and their needs, also doing right by them so they do stay with us, because for them it also costs them a lot of time and money to go find a new agency. So if we can meet them where they are and keep them happy by just always responding to their emails and promising certain things and promising when they would see traction on a marketing campaign, those 2 simple things went a long way. But then we would also do other things too. Like, for example, one of the things I believe I started talking about early on with social media, and people would look at me like I'm crazy, is we would track sales. So, okay, we're gonna respond to you. We're gonna keep you for a while. We're gonna meet you where you are. We're not gonna put you in this place where you're like, who are these guys? Are they taking care of us? We're more like, okay, we're doing all the basics in terms of communication. We've got you. But now we're also gonna say, "Hey, we could promise you likes, we could promise you traffic, but we can also guarantee that we could track sales." So what we did early on as an agency, before pixels were even a thing, we made our own pixel. We had a pixel that we put on a client's site where we could track traffic from a Facebook ad and say that conversion came from us, not from a flyer you left on someone's windshield, not from the radio ad, not from any other thing. So we would track things end to end back then, and people thought we were crazy. We also had a dashboard that clients could log into 24/7 and check their social media stats without us involved. And so these were things we were doing back now those are like turnkey things, right? They just come with being an advertiser on Facebook. That wasn't even a thing back then, and we were already thinking along those lines.
Wow, that's crazy how forward thinking you are, but I think that has to do with your tech background and how you're always dabbling in like trying the new things and you're forward thinking. I'm curious because you've mentioned innovation, you've mentioned client retention, you've mentioned that always evolving has been important for you and a key to your success. And I know you mentioned the last time we connected. What are you doing currently to stay innovative and to leverage tech?
Yeah, we are all in with still the more advanced side of social media. We still have analytic dashboards that are our own and proprietary. And matter of fact, we've now evolved our analytics dashboard so you can see all your stats, not just social media. You can track phone calls through sales. You can track your website sales, not through social media. You can track your actual social media. You can connect just about every platform you use and put it in our dashboard, and that'll allow you to check the whole picture and not just one piece of it. So that's one way. I think analytics and showing clients that the work we do has an ROI in many ways is one way. The second way is just embracing this whole AI movement, right? People are like, "Oh no, my job. Oh no, we're going to go out of business." And that's just been said forever. I'm sure like when typewriters went to computers, people are like, "What?" And when brick and mortar went to e-commerce, people are like, "Oh no." And there's always these "oh no" moments. And it was fine. We found a way to adapt and coexist. This is a different beast, I would say. When it comes to tech, we've never quite had tech that like can handle such complex tasks. So it will be a little bit different, I think, from the other new technology type of things that came out. But I think we'll find a way to adapt. And I might be crazy to say what if AI just becomes so great we don't have to work 9 to 5? Is that such a bad thing? That we redefine work itself, the definition of what it means to survive as a human? It's not always bad, but hey, if I could work 3 days a week and still make the same the same money and take care of my life and AI is kinda doing the rest, that's great. At what point do humans go, "Okay, we're dealing with too much," which I think a lot of people say these days, like, "I am overwhelmed." So we're as an agency, we're really embracing tech. We already have a deck out with all of our AI gen work or gen AI. So we're making videos, we're making visual content, we're using it for copy. It's like our creative team as a lean and mean agency is now multiplied without having to bring on the extra staff, which is great. And it's also helped our smaller clients. So if they don't quite have a budget to produce a commercial quality video, and now they can, and they can do it with Gen AI. So we're embracing that right now. We're totally all in with a lot of the tools we're testing. I would say we're in beta, but we're here to use that to empower our clients, not to scare them.
That's so interesting. And the deck that you're referring to, I actually saw it and I was very impressed, by the way. That was all AI produced video. And
Yeah.
so I guess two things. You mentioned if I can work 3 days a week and still achieve the same results and still make sure my clients are happy, like, is that okay? I think so. How do you feel like your clients feel about that though? Because I know there's always this, do clients expect you to be working 24/7, you and your team to be available? And if they know that you're chilling 4 days a week, does that change anything?
I think it'll be weird at first, but then I think it'll become the norm because I think as hard as we work for our clients, that also means they're working equally as hard, right, to make something successful. So I think if both sides get a break and they're hitting their results, I think we should go out for client agency dinners more and celebrate that. I think I'm more optimistic. I think where I'm a little bit ambivalent is where government comes in. They never work
Ooh.
fast enough to create the protocols and the laws and the regulations to manage this chaos, right? I think people adapt really fast to it. Like when you look at Bitcoin, for example, but the governments are always, like, so behind, and there's that point that bottleneck that causes a little bit of chaos. So I think we'll deal with a little bit of that, but I think at first, everyone's just gonna be like, "I don't know how I feel about this," but eventually, it'll become the new norm, and we will find a way to work that way. I it might even go as crazy as money just doesn't define how we buy and sell things. Maybe AI does take over to that point. I think this is something we can't even imagine as humans. Like from As long as we can remember, you've always had to earn your keep. And when you take that element away, that dynamic away, I don't think any of us can ever imagine what that would look like. So we're in a really unique place right now for like generally just as humans. What are we going to do if this thing becomes that powerful? But I'm here for it. I think we'll figure it out. Yeah.
What happens when AI can fully run our businesses and we have 100% of our time?
Yeah, I think what you should do is learn the things you've been wanting to learn. Go on vacation. Have a great time. And I really do hope the whole economy figures out a way to adapt to humans just not having to potentially work. It's a crazy thought, but it's the way I see AI going outside of just the generation side. It's getting to a point where I think life might be something actually you can enjoy. Sounds crazy, right? But work does take up quite a bit of our time. I think it's gonna be wild. I think it's gonna be crazy. I think the government catching up and trying to figure out how to regulate this is gonna be a painful point. But I think once it's figured out, I think we're just gonna be in a place where just work just doesn't conquer us. So why else would we've always created technology to create ease and some sort of a it's supposed to be like a way to solve problems, I would think, right? Like I don't think people just create tech just to create it. There's always that goal of like how can we make life easier? How can we make it better? So now we're at this point where there's a piece of tech that can do so much. We're going to have to rethink so much as well.
Yeah, it's really wild to think about, and especially 'cause it's developing so fast. I'm curious if you guys are leveraging AI, voice AI agents to help convert the leads and the marketing that you're doing for your clients or internally for your agency.
We're in beta with it. We have done some voiceover work that's about like voiceover for video or a podcast. We've not gotten to the point where it's like full customer service agent yet. But I know that there's companies out there that are doing that. There's been some good headlines and bad headlines around that. But for I think when you use it in terms of marketing, I think it's great for voiceover, especially if you look at a company like 11 Labs. They got to a place where you could tell it was an AI voice, and now it's gotten to a place where you can now program in emotional inflection and things like that in the voice. So you could tell the script where to sigh, where to giggle, where to kind of slow down, and where to pick it up. And then there's different types of voices, like narrative voices, documentary style. I even saw an example from what an Instagram user who like replicated the old school WWE. Actually, it's still out. I just don't watch it anymore. But wrestling. So, like, you know how those commentators are like super high energy and they just have this thing about that. Exactly. Someone replicated that exact cadence in the voice, like through AI. So it's come a long way where you're not gonna be able to tell the difference. It's almost there, especially now that you can program in these things. So yeah, voice is been critical because now you can get exactly what you're looking for. You don't have to do the whole search, like casting search and go through how many samples of people, interviews, like you can actually just knock it all out through one platform. And there's others out there as well, but that's the one I've found that's been leading the way and trailblazing it. This is what they're called.
I've experimented with them and used them on some things. It's insane. But when I listened to the video that you have on your deck and I could hear inflection points of emotion and tonality and different cadences, and I was like, what the F? Oh, this is cool. So I'm curious, like, given your experience in tech and programming and developing and your marketing experience, like where are you looking to take this into the agency? Are you looking to develop actual products or is it mainly proprietary stuff to serve your clients better? Like where are you going with all this?
I think it's gonna be both. I think it's gonna be for marketing campaigns where a voiceover is required. I think it's gonna be used for any kind of graphic design and video. The videos come to a commercial level. I think like pros can tell when the color's off or certain things are off, but most people don't. I think pros can tell. I think if a client now we can offer more services. Let's say a client's always wanted to start a podcast. Great. Let's get them into 11 labs. Let's get samples of their voice and clone it so that they can now literally wear multiple hats without having to be everywhere at the same time. So if you've ever wanted a podcast, great. If you want to go as crazy as creating a virtual replica of you, we can help you kind of get to that point. Now you're a video blogger without having to even sit in front of your own camera. If you needed something that you've just always wanted to do as a client, you just never had the resources to do it, maybe we're the curators now of that. Instead of the client having to learn all these tools, they rely on us instead, and we can guide them through all the different projects. Even like, for example, we have a couple of clients that do Spotify ads, which are audio, right? How do you do that? Do you usually had to write a script and then you had to cast for a voiceover actor? You can now kind of do it all without needing to really go outside of the agency if the agency knows how to use all these tools. So I think it's going to turn into offering maybe more comprehensive services for all kinds of marketing, not just the social media and the email marketing and the SMS marketing we do, but it might go beyond into like full on content creation studios for clients.
And is that what like, I can see you kind of lighting up a little bit. Is that what is, like, you're passionate about? Is this expanding further, or is it because the tech is going there?
I think it's because I know if we really learn these tools on an expert level, we can really help our clients, especially the smaller to medium-sized ones who just don't have the budget but have a lot of goals, a lot of dreams, a lot of aspirations, and they've just not been able to do it because of budget limitations, time limitations, resource limitations, and just not knowing how to do it, right? So if we're able to kind of have these conversations with clients and get them to a place where they'll lean on us and let us guide them, I'm excited by the fact that we're helping people more, our clients more than we were able to even before. That's what excites me. That's where I kind of light up knowing that we're able to take it to another level for them.
That's pretty cool because I can tell how important that is for you. How does that change your client acquisition strategy?
Changes quite a bit. We always meet people at their biggest pain point. For one client, it may be our social media just sucks. We need help. So we start there. And then when they reach a certain level and they see the sales coming in and they're ready to scale, then we go, hey, what's the next best thing we can do? Or they'll ask us or we'll ask them. And then we can pitch the next thing and the next thing. And for us to have a menu of options, we may pitch something. They're like, nah, not really interested in that. But we have 15 other things that we can pitch that we've done now. We've tested it. I'm pushing these tools to maximum levels and I'm trying to figure out at what point do they tip and look like AI again. So we're taking that lead and just becoming experts in this so that when a client reaches a certain point, they come to us for one thing, but then it scales into 5 other things, other services. That's great. If I can if and it makes it easier for the client because instead of them having to manage 5 different agencies, we're that go-to for them, like, all in one
Scope creep.
solution.
Scope creep is a big pain point for a lot of agency owners that I speak with. So, given that you have so much experience in that, given that you have kept clients for average of 5 years plus, how do you add on another service to keep the scope creep within contained, but also so that you guys can grow together, so you can continue making more revenue inside of your agency, but also making sure the clients are taken care of? How do you handle that?
It's usually just communication. I don't think I mentioned this earlier in the podcast, but I'm hands-on with every project. I tend to be the point person plus one other account manager, and this is one of the benefits of being lean and mean. And I we have an account manager who's taking care of the day-to-day, I can see when a client's gotten to a point where they can add on a couple more things, not because we wanna just hard sell to them, I don't like that. It needs to feel natural and the timing needs to feel right. And if I especially see, "Hey, your social media is giving you an ROI of X by adding this and this," we could probably take X and then multiply it, right? So, by showing clients that, having a conversation, the fact that I'm involved, all that makes them feel really good and makes them stick with us, and it makes them feel like they can trust us because we're so hands-on and we don't just I don't just go, "Hey, here's an account manager, and by the way, if you need graphics, there's our lead on graphics, and by the way, there's our lead on video." Like, you're not dealing with 5 different people in our company. You're dealing with maximum 1 to 2 people, and they are air traffic control, making sure all the planes land and take off without crashing and burning. Yeah, so when you get to a point where you have to upsell a little bit and you've not done it, like, we don't just do it, time it well. It's not, "Hey, now that you've signed up, What's a service where you're like, "I can't believe I signed up for this." Now every week they're trying to upsell me. That kind of feeling where you're just like, "I hate this."
Yeah.
We don't do that. We really wait for the right moment, and then we back it up, and if we can, we'll send projections, like, on sales. Because really, we lead with sales. We could talk about clicks, and we could talk about likes and followers, but at the end of the day, there's 2 things that drive sales for clients. It's either a direct sale because they have an e-commerce system of some sort, or, maybe they have an offline component as well, and then we'll integrate with their POS system to track, or the 3rd way is we collect an email address. Email is the way you can actually reach someone without the noise of the algorithm, right? So Facebook ad's great, an Instagram ad is great, but it gets buried within seconds. At least an email is a little bit more direct.
Mm.
And then I would say a bonus is having clients have some sort of a mobile element, whether it's SMS messaging or a WhatsApp group or a mobile app. Because there's nothing, I guarantee there's nothing we check more than our push notifications on our phone. So having some kind of a mobile touch point is really great. I'm just trying to break out of the noise. Social media is great, but there's just too much going on. You kind of lose people quickly.
WhatsApp group is interesting. So are you setting up like tens of thousands of people WhatsApp groups for your clients? Is that what you're doing?
If it makes sense, like, for example, we have some clients that are super, like, niche, right? And so by having a WhatsApp group where you can talk about tennis, that's cool because now you're in this little community where it's super high touch point. It's not it's not hard to access, right? You're not, like, logging into a computer and then getting into a remember message boards? Like, those are tough to access. It's a super easy touch point, and it gives you the content you want, and it makes it more of a two-way conversation. So think of the relationships you build by having a WhatsApp group where there's communication going into the group from the brand itself, and they're doing it very authentically, not in a spammy kind of way, but very authentically, and then conversation going back, and then the relationships within the people in the community. That's a really huge dynamic that you can create if you have the right brand for it. I'm not saying everyone should have a WhatsApp group, but now has also added actually ways to sell things. You can actually sell product through WhatsApp, you can sell services through WhatsApp, so you can even monetize it now. You can go beyond it just being a cool place to hang out.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's wild.
You gotta add me to one of these WhatsApp groups where they're selling product and services. I'm like, but I was thinking of you mentioned crypto and Bitcoin earlier, but some of these Telegram groups where they have like thousands or tens of thousands of people and they're the access to information is just so fast. And it's just like everybody can just like get it right away. So I can only imagine what that's like for brands to be able to access and learn and just have their pulse on their clients. That's
Yeah, and you can also turn it into a VIP benefit. If you let's say you're a membership-based business, if you buy our biggest membership, you get invited into our exclusive WhatsApp group, and then you can make that WhatsApp group meet certain criteria. So let's say you're a life coach, right? This WhatsApp group is actually filled with other six-figure earning executives. We don't invite everyone into it, but if you get to a certain point with our brand, we invite you into this group, and now it becomes this ultra exclusive, high touch point place where you can do a lot of things with. And both sides feel special that you have this group, and then also the client, because who wouldn't want a better version of LinkedIn to be inside of a group with other six figure earners where you know that there's a certain level quality or a person in there that you can interact with. So
yeah.
there's a lot of ways to slice it and dice it, but it really is on a case by case basis based on the client's business model, what they're going for. But we'll come up with a lot of different ways to just go outside of what's normal and make it a special experience for their customers.
That's really cool. That's awesome. Dimple, if you had to give one piece of advice for other agency owners that are trying to get to that seven, multi seven, or even eight figure mark, what would it be?
I think it's thinking more like an entrepreneur and less like an opportunistic person. Opportunists are people who just go for what's trendy, what makes them a quick buck. And they're not really thinking beyond that. They're just chasing the money, chasing the trend. But entrepreneurs put blood, sweat, and tears into building something that's worth owning. And I think that's what differentiates an agency that's gonna last 17 years versus someone who's just gonna be a one-hit wonder and maybe crash and burn at some point. I think there's a huge difference between what an entrepreneur is and what And I think the 2 get confused, right? You often see, like, an agency that's doing really well and, like, really trendy and on top of everything, but are they really putting the blood, sweat, and tears into making it something meaningful? That's where I look. That's how I've always done business too. So I think that's why from a lot of the
That's powerful. And I think it aligns very much with the name of your agency, synergy, because like with your clients, you have an insane amount of synergy, and therefore they stick with you, and you guys are able to grow together. So that's pretty powerful.
and then we also put the subtle "her" in synergy for the women-owned business too, which is why the H is in there. Yeah, so it was a loaded name for sure. Yeah, so we have a deck online at synergymarketing.com/let's talk. That's probably the only thing I have, and it's still not I don't think you can Google it and pull it up. It comes from some touch point with us. You can reach out to me on Instagram, I'm on LinkedIn. I'm personally all over social media. It would be silly if I wasn't being in marketing, but you can find us, or it's like a podcast like this where someone hears of us. But we have a deck where you can look through our different menu of options and I personally do a lot outside of the office. I'm on boards. I do a lot of volunteering. I specifically love giving back to up and coming entrepreneurs. So I'll visit high schools, I'll visit universities, and I'll do talks. So I'm super active out there. And I'm getting ready to create this little powerhouse of other women entrepreneurs locally. So there's myself, an owner of a PR agency, and an owner of an events production company. And we're three female founders who've had companies for a decade or more and we just want to join forces and maybe start doing summits, conferences, mixers, and things like that attract all kinds of people, but with a little bit of a focus on women in business, just because I think we need it. And I think the crazier and crazier the online world gets, I think that's the offline world's going to become more meaningful because of that. And people, when you can't tell the video is real or not, you might be like, you know what? I'm just going to go to this mixer where I can actually I wanna touch her, I wanna poke her, see if she's real. But yeah, I so we're strategic partnerships is basically what I'm getting to is those are pretty big for me too. So being out there doing podcasts like this, having our deck, and again, just doing right by that one client so that it fuels referrals. I don't think there's anything more powerful in business than getting a referral. There's no other better sale you can get. That's what I kinda rely on.
I think this is a great place to wrap it up. Dimple, thank you so much for taking time to chat today. You shared some very insightful things. Thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, thank you. And can't wait to share this with everyone. And I appreciate you bringing me on and geeking out with me for a little bit. So thank you, Chris.